So we're going to be constructing an Ogive graph. I'm going to kind of skip straight to the bottom. At the bottom, we have your class limits, and we have frequency. What do I usually come up with? Like, if this were a week ago or whatever, what would I say you do for your next column? All right, so all y'all are saying everything right. And I can do this in any order. Let's say I want to do percents. Let's go ahead and find percents. Actually, I'm going to give you a heads up. If you need a calculator, get one. They're bagged and taped. They work fine in a bag. It's easier to clean. Type 2, 7, 13, 12, 7, 3 into a list. Do I feel sure that you can get percents for all of these? Yes, I hope so. If not, I probably can't help you at this point. When I am doing the percents for all of those, how different is the equation that I'm using for each of those different values?
Just X.
Just X. So anytime you are doing a repetitive equation over and over, use a list. So if in a list we have, I'm going to grab a different calculator so that. What am I going to plug in as list 2? So I can do this as list 1 divided by what? 25, 35, 44. And then I can go ahead and do times 100 if I want to, so that the percents. Or you can just do that yourself, doesn't matter. And then you hit enter and it does it all for you instead of typing each one of them in individually. So start to get to the point where use your calculator or understand when you can use your calculator. So this is, I think, tell me if I'm wrong, 4.55%. Am I saying the right numbers? So these are percents, but there's a different name for that, which is the same thing. I needed to know more information than just the frequency to find percent. What information did I need to know? The total. So I am now taking that individual group's frequency and relating or comparing it to the whole. So it is the frequency relative to the total. Percent is relative frequency. So relative frequency means the frequency relative to the total, which is just percent. And it says that as one of your things off to the side. So another thing we talked about the other day was taking my frequencies and adding them up, which would give me cumulative frequency. I can do the exact same thing with percents. So, what is my first cumulative percentage? 4.55. What is my next one?
20.46.
Give me one more.
50.01.
Tell me what that one means. What does 20.46 mean?
Relative frequency all values for
Okay, so
cumulative relative.
leave it open here. So definitely cumulative relative frequency. Is that going to be that column? If I leave this as just open, it's that percent of the data is what?
Lower than 49.
Lower than 49. So if I drew that on a curve, I don't know where 49 is, but wherever that line is, I'm shading which way. Left. Well, what's something that we've talked about that means shade to the left? That does percent.
The area of the z-score.
Area of z-score. What about, there's another vocab word. Percent that are lower than.
Percentile.
Percentile. Yeah. Percent you did better than. Sorry. Percent you did better than. So now I'm writing these as percents. If this were percentile, this would be the 5th percentile, 20th percentile, and so forth. But I just want you to associate those terms. So then my next one is what? That was easy. 77.28. What's my next one? What's my last one? What should my last one be?
93.19.
Now, there's a chance that that's like 99.99 in some situations because of rounding, but at this point it works out fine.
Yeah, you get 100.01.
Not what I have written up there. Because 93.19 plus 0.81 should give me that. Yeah. But that's a good point. It could be 99.99 or 100.01. Both of those would be reasonable to end up with rounding. What does it mean to be the 50th percentile?
50%.
50% or lower than that, which means what? That's my what? That's my median. So the 50th percentile is your median. The median here is looking like it's 54. Based off this graph. So if the 50th percentile is my median, what else do I know with vocab words and percentiles? If 50% is below the median, what's another thing like that I know? Now, they would have 0 and 100, which is right. What else? So I've got min and max. About flipped you off. We've got median. What am I missing?
Q1 and Q2.
What am I about? Q1 and Q3. So what is Q1? 25th percentile. What is Q3? 75th percentile. So what we're going to do now is graph what we have over here. I know I've spaced this out to make it like you should count and figure out what you want each block to be, but just for the sake of this is our notes, and I've counted it. I'll tell you what we're going to go by. Oh, no, I don't remember. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Well, I made those definitely 10 each. Now, writing cumulative relative frequency there is fine, but percentile makes more sense to have to deal with. I need to go, what is my first? So we graph this on the x-axis the exact same way that we would graph a histogram. So my first number needs to be what? Class width, class limits.
40.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. I don't know what I did. Numbers wise, I'm just trying to figure out what I was.
Should we just do 40, 45?
Yeah, let's just do this. I guess I did something that changed mine. Oh, maybe I did 46. Because I could do better with numbers. Because if I did 5, then it gets kind of funny. Maybe I did 46, 50. It's not ready there, is it? So 48, 50, 2, 4, 6, 8, 60, 2, 4, 6, 8, 70. What did I go to? I think each one was 2, so that's like 40, that's 42, this is 44. And now this you can choose on your own and pick what you want to go up by. I'm just trying to do it to where all doing the same thing so we can talk about it. That's not right, is it?
Are you just trying to get it to end it?
Yeah. Let's skip something. 46, 50. That's 60, 2, 64, 68. That's pretty good for everything, right? Yes? Did I cover enough? What was my last number?
69.
So yeah, I'm good. Oh, close. I missed a little bit. I must have done about 3 because I'm going out mine. We might just have to pretend there's some nuts over here. Because technically, my last number that I write down would be what? 70. So if y'all don't have enough blocks, just put one more for 70. Make sure to just get 4, 4, 4, 4. This next box, 70. I don't know what I did. Alright, so my first dot we know is going to be a percentile of what percentile? Where is the first percentile that I'm going to put up here? 4.55. At what point have I accumulated 4.55%? So I don't know what happens between 40 and 44, but I know that at 44, 4.5%. So how much was below 40? So I'm starting at 0 there. Now I'm going to eventually, you actually do like segments in between.
But we put it at 44, we don't put it at 45.
I'm sorry, 45. Where's 45? I should have labeled the x-axis better, or picked better numbers. So, no wait, it's at 45, yes, you're right. Why 45?
That's the next one.
Because I know it happened before it got to 45. So my next dot is going to go above what number on the x-axis? 50, and it's going to go up to a height of what number? Percentile. So 50 is going to be 20.45, just right over 20. Now, when I check things, especially on a graph like this, I am not going to be so picky that I'm like, this dot right here is halfway between here and here, but barely less, so I'm going to get out a ruler and measure that's halfway, but not quite halfway. This is something I would cut off for. this is a dot that is where? Just above 20. If you draw a dot there, I will cut off. I know that's not very far, but don't do something that's like obviously on the wrong side. So if you draw it on the wrong side of 20 and there's a line there for 20, I would cut off something like that. Then over what number is my next number I'm writing over? 55, right? And at 55, I'm going what? Right about 50, a little over 50. Pretty much 50. My next one is at 60. My dot is what? And then by the time I get to, so now I'm at what? 65? And what dot goes above 65? And then by the time I get to 70, you're at 100. Now, don't just go in and freehand these because let me tell you, y'all draw some terrible freehanded curves or freehanded lines and it starts to look like it curves. Actually use the side of your ID so that you have a straight edge. And now up here, because I drew my dots big enough for y'all to see, my board's going to try to catch a point, so they might be off a little bit, but like that one's kind of funny. Don't make yours look funny like mine, like there. My board tries to catch a point, that makes it big. So let's look at this kind of like, as far as a conversation wise, looking at it like slopes. Where is the slope the steepest? Or possibly the steepest? Just looking at this graph.
Between 50
Probably between 50 and 55, maybe about the same as between 55 and 60, right? So if the slope increased the most, what does that actually mean?
There's the most values.
There's the most values in there. So anytime it jumps up really high, really quick, that means there's a lot of frequency between there. Anytime it flattens out, like between 40 and 44, there's not many values there. So the flatter, the less values, the steeper, the more the values that are in there. Let's add some labels. What are these?
Agent.
Does it say when?
At and number.
And then my typical Ogive of. Does it even say U.S. presidents or just say presidents?
Just says president.
So an Ogive graphs percentiles. So we can use this to interpret things with percentiles. So A, was Barack Obama, who was inaugurated at age 47, unusually young?
Yeah.
Are we going to know exactly what percentile 47 is? No, but we can use this to guess about. Now, technically, we only know that it's under 20, and I would kind of accept that problem, or accept that answer. But if I were to follow this Ogive the best I can, because a lot of times you're going to have more dots than what we have up there, about what percentile is an age of 47? So I would want to actually physically see this on your paper, and using a quarter of your paper or an ID is something you need to do because I have people who just can't draw a straight line, and it makes them miss the problem. So I'm going to come here to 47, and I'm going to line up my paper with this x-axis. And then I'm going to see where it hits that line. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here. So from that line, perpendicular to this axis. And if you use a straight edge like that, you're not going to miss getting close to where about that is. Let me tell you, I'd have some people who give me answers that are less than 10 because they can't draw a line versus anything. They draw it here and then straight over. So about what percentile would an age of 47 be? Somewhere in there, so that's 12, 11, something like that. So to fully answer that question, some people are going to say yes and some people are going to say no. That part doesn't bother me. Your justification for either yes or no is going to be the same thing because there are about what? About 12% of presidents were younger at inauguration. So some of you would say yes because only about 12% of presidents were younger at inauguration. Some of you are going to say no because about 12% were younger. I don't care about the yes, no, I care about the justification. But you would use the argument regardless. So you need to write something about 12%, maybe like yes/no. About 12% of presidents were younger at inauguration. All right, so question B. So question A, I gave you something on the x-axis and you followed it to the y-axis. Question B is I give you something on the y-axis and you follow it to the x-axis. You're doing the exact same thing. So using your straight edge again, I get cheeks. I have horizontal and vertical up here. So here's 70, so make sure you're at 75. Now, a lot of you are going to do this right here. What's wrong with what I just did? Where's my line? Oh, this is 65, right? I'm thinking the next one. Okay, my bad. So I'm also going to look at things like where did your line intersect? So like where your line intersects and then follow it down. I'm going to base how correct your answer is off of where your line actually intersected. So this is a good example of one where if I gave you lined paper, I would not accept an age of what? What's really close but an age that I would not accept? I would not accept 58 because there is no way that you're going to intersect at 65 below right here. Does that make sense? Now, that would be if I had this graph drawn in front of me. You're going to have a little bit of variation in yours, so yours might look a little different than mine. That's fine. 67-ish, 67, I mean, or 57, 57-ish, 57 and a half. Like, I don't care. Like, you just need to get close. But it's definitely below 58. All right, so part A gave us a value for the x-axis. Part B gave us a value for the y-axis. C doesn't give us any numbers.
What do we write for the interpreter?
Of which one? About 65% of presidents were younger than 57 at age of inauguration. About 65% of presidents were younger than whichever number you pick, like 57 at inauguration. One thing I'm really picky about throughout this entire class is if it's not exact, say the word about, and that helps your argument a little But so part C, what does median mean to me? 50th percentile. So I'm basically doing it just like part B, but at 50. This one should be really easy because it should just be where did it touch? Well, this one we already knew ahead of time, which should have been what? 55. Because we actually found that in our values of finding the percentiles, but it's not always going to be that case. Does that one say interpret? Okay. Now, if this were a test or quiz, this helps your argument if you do very tiny, very quick, just and you could either write, what's this one, 47? So like I'm saying this line is for this work, this is this work. So that's kind of like showing your work, right, which I guess is good. So for part D, one of my lines needs to be at what? 25. And that ends up being, usually it's not something with like ages where it's like you either are that age or you're not. Like it could be something that could be in between. What's my label I'm going to write beside that one? I would probably choose to write Q1 as opposed to 25th, but some people are going to write 25th. And then I'm just writing this off to the side. So our Q1 is about what? 51 years old. Now we need to find what? 75th percentile. Right, that's Q3. This is one, no questions asked, I would not accept 60. Why? And this chart told me that at 59, I was already to here. So that would be going backwards if I said 60 was 75%. So Q3 is about what? And then then I would do my work. Am I done? No. I'm finding the what? How do I find IQR? My Q3 is 59, my Q1 is 51, which gives me, what would my units be there? Which is weird because your interquartile range should have the same units as your values. It is still years. You kind of think of the other one as like years old. But it's still like years. That gets through all this worksheet, right? Questions on anything with this worksheet?